Welcome back to Factual America, where facts, not feelings, shape our understanding of the world's most pressing issues. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the war in Ukraine, dissecting media narratives and revealing America's real involvement. Whether you support ongoing aid or fear entanglement in a far-off fight, you owe it to yourself to see the bigger picture. Stay tuned. This might just change everything you think you know about the war on Europe's edge. Let's set the stage. February 2022 saw tanks rolling across Ukraine's borders. While the mainstream media declared the war as a straightforward invasion of democracy by authoritarian Russia, the roots go far deeper. Decades of foreign policy, NATO expansion, Cold War resentment, and yes, U.S. involvement paved this road to war. The Western press painted the conflict in black and white. Russia evil, Ukraine good. Few bothered to explore the gray. Yet history is clear. NATO's eastward march since the 90s was always seen as a threat by Moscow, rightly or wrongly. Promises made to Gorbachev about not 1 inch eastward faded into memory as Poland, the Baltic states, Slovakia, and more joined the alliance. Ukraine became the final red line. Then there's the 2014 Maidan Revolution. On the surface, Ukrainians demanded a voice and a Western future. Yet leaked calls and open admissions show that U.S. officials weren't just cheering from the sidelines. They were orchestrating, funding, and guiding events. Ukraine's new pro-Western government wasn't just homegrown. It was at least partially imported, and Russia took this as a direct threat. Now, fast forward to 2022. The Russian military justified its aggression as a special operation to denazify Ukraine. A claim mocked by Western press but rooted uncomfortably in a small kernel of truth. Ukraine's Azov battalion and other far-right groups received support and legitimacy under the new regime. Was Putin exaggerating for propaganda? Surely. But was the American media telling the full truth? Not quite. So why does America care so much about Ukraine, a country thousands of miles away? The official story is defending democracy. But dig deeper, and you find a region flush with natural gas, rare earth metals, and a strategic position that prevents Russia from re-emerging as a European superpower. Ukraine is about resources, influence, and above all, maintaining a unipolar world order where America calls the shots. One twist the mainstream refuses to touch. Ukraine is a pawn in a proxy war. This is not a fight purely for freedom or sovereignty. It's a calculated containment strategy. The U.S. spent years arming, training, and equipping Ukraine long before the invasion, a move Moscow read as a direct attack. Republican and Democrat administrations alike funneled billions into defense, while insisting we're not really involved. How much money is actually flowing into Ukraine? Americans hear about aid packages, $50 billion here, $20 billion there, yet little is said about how much actually reaches the front lines. Corruption is rampant, and U.S. defense contractors profit handsomely from weapon shipments, sometimes more than Ukrainian troops themselves benefit. Want another twist that barely cracks cable news? The risk for escalation is real. Every new batch of American tanks and missiles drags us closer to a shooting war with the world's largest nuclear power. Some DC hawks think it would be a good thing, teaching Russia a lesson. But parents in Middle America worry that the lesson might be mutual assured destruction. Let's talk about President Biden. His administration frames aid as essential, a stand against tyranny, less discussed. Years of Hunter Biden's questionable Ukrainian business dealings. While the 2022 war is not about one family's corruption, it does raise questions about the depth of U.S.-Ukraine entanglement. Critics say this is part of a pattern. When DC insiders get rich, foreign wars become more likely, not less. Ukraine is no American democracy. Martial law, press crackdowns, and opposition silenced. These are daily realities ignored by most U.S. media. In defending Ukraine, we risk defending a place that, in many ways, lacks the freedoms we cherish. The irony is bitter, and it's one both parties are loath to discuss. Let's not overlook the suffering of ordinary Ukrainians. Cities bombed, families split, millions fleeing as refugees. This is the awful reality. But ask yourself, would America's leaders risk tens of thousands of lives for a truly noble cause? Or is this about geopolitics, power, and money? The question keeps coming back. Are we being told the full truth? A majority of Americans now doubt the official story. Polls show skepticism of Ukraine aid growing, especially among conservatives. The media's job is to question, not campaign. But lately, it seems reporters act as government spokespeople rather than investigators. Let's pause on one of the biggest taboos in the Ukraine debate: how U.S. military hardware is actually used. There are credible reports, ignored by most U.S. outlets, of American-made weapons ending up on the black market or striking inside Russian territory. Each incident risks a Russian response, not against Ukraine, but against America directly. Even the so-called Great Ukrainian Counteroffensive in 2023 didn't play out as Washington hoped. Officials boasted that advanced weapons would change the war overnight. They didn't. Ukrainian advances stalled, casualties mounted, and suddenly news networks stopped talking about victory, shifting to holding the line. The narrative changed. Instead of focusing on results, they focused on blaming Russia's brutality. Then there's the economic fallout, felt not just in Ukraine, but across Europe and the United States. As American natural gas replaces Russian supply to Europe, U.S. companies win big while everyday Europeans pay higher energy prices. Meanwhile, American families feel inflation, driven by defense spending and food supply chain chaos. And yet, here's the shocker: China is the silent winner. As the U.S. and Russia exhaust resources, China invests quietly in Belt and Road infrastructure while playing both sides diplomatically. Every dollar in missile America sends to Ukraine not only weakens Russia, but also shifts U.S. focus away from the true 21st century rival, Beijing. So what happens next? If history is any guide, proxy wars rarely end well for those who fund them. Afghanistan in the 1980s bled the Soviet Union dry and then birthed decades of instability. Iraq and Syria became quagmires, not victories. Despite confident government predictions, the Ukraine conflict is nowhere near over, and American taxpayers will foot the bill for years to come. Don't get me wrong, Russia is no hero in this story. Putin's war has killed thousands, and his government is ruthless. But here's the twist Congress never mentions. If we truly want peace, why are so many locked into a forever war mindset with endless arms shipments and zero push for negotiations? One more uncomfortable truth: the American defense industry loves this war. Stocks for Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, and other contractors are up. For them, every escalation is a windfall. Meanwhile, the American worker faces layoffs, small business closures, and a battered dollar. As always, the few profit at the expense of the many. And in some corners, support for Ukraine slides toward outright censorship. From college campuses to Twitter or X, people who question aid are branded traitors or Russian agents. Genuine debate is dismissed, and the American tradition of fierce, free discussion is threatened, not by Russians, but by our own establishment. Here's a crucial point conservatives grasp, but others miss. National interest must always come first. Charity begins at home. How can we justify hundreds of billions sent overseas when American vets sleep on the street, schools crumble, and our own border is in chaos? Is Ukraine's border more sacred than America's? Many Americans across the spectrum sense hypocrisy. Politicians who once demanded endless war abroad now claim Ukraine is the exception. They wave flags and call for defending democracy while curtailing basic freedoms back home. No wonder trust is at historic lows. So where does it end? Maybe with a diplomatic deal, one that angers hawks but saves lives. Or perhaps, tragically, this conflict escalates until we're past the point of no return. Either way, Americans deserve to know the truth. The war in Ukraine is about far more than meets the eye. It isn't just about freedom, it's about power, profit, and maintaining the status quo. Is America a force for good? Often, yes, but only when her leaders respect the facts, prioritize national interest, and tell citizens the unvarnished truth. That's what we try to do here on Factual America. If you value honest analysis, beyond the headlines, stick with us. Now, I want to hear from you. Were you surprised by what you learned today? Do you think America's involvement in Ukraine is correct? Or are you ready to pull back? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, no matter which side you're on. And if there's another global issue you want us to cover, drop your topic ideas below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us next time as we bring you the facts the mainstream ignores.